Hello everyone, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. I have with me here Nicole.
Hey everyone.
Nicole and I are both master CTC therapists, and today we're going to talk about a very, very important topic. Now, before we actually get to the topic and start to disclose what it's about, Nicole, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us where you're from and what is it that you do.
Yeah, so I'm a master CTC therapist,
Right.
And I reside on the Gold Coast, but obviously do work with people globally. And so what we do, I guess, as a CTC therapist is really help people work with whatever it is that they feel they need to get past in order to, I guess, accomplish things or realize things or achieve things in their life. So, whatever that might be. And it can vary from
Person to person.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting, right? Because everyone comes with different problems. As therapists, of course, we see people with different and unique problems every day. But even though we do have unique solutions for them, the solutions can, even though they're unique, can often take a path which, even as therapists, when we go into the session, we don't really expect.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our topic today, releasing problems from multiple levels. Now, Nicole, tell me about your experience in understanding what a problem is and how can it be layered, or how is it layered in nature?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because when we work with clients, and I'm sure we can both attest to that you see a problem quite often on an emotional level, and that emotional issue can cause a person to have physical symptoms. So we have emotional, we have physical, and we have energetic. I guess is the way I kind of break it down and most simply. So, the thoughts that we have and the feelings and the emotions that we have drive us to have oftentimes physical symptoms. So you'll know this. So if you are nervous about something and you're afraid of something, you'll physically feel it in your stomach.
Right.
And that's probably the best example I can give. Now, what happens with trauma quite often in particular, you'll have this really strong emotional response to an event. And it's not so much the event that holds you down, it's that emotional response.
Yeah.
That emotional response then can lie in the body. At the time, it can trigger a physical symptom, just like feeling sick in the stomach or a number of symptoms. And it can stay within the body and be held within the body on a physical level and an energetic level.
Right.
So, the really cool thing about what we do and why it's so effective is that it can be released from all levels. Traditional talk therapy really addresses it sort of at a singular point of reference. Whereas what we do works on multiple layers so that when a client comes out, we address the issue at a root cause and they come out and they're healed on all of those levels or layers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which is, pretty amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. That was an excellent explanation, Nicole. And as Nicole tried to explain, what happens when you go to traditional talk therapy is that you would go back into an instance of time when you had that experience, and you try and clear it energetically or emotionally or mentally from that experience. But what about the times before that? Because obviously that experience of anxiety that you feel is an outcome of thoughts and emotions, but maybe that wasn't the first time you actually felt it. Maybe that wasn't the first time you thought that way or you felt that way and your body responded in a particular way. So what we do with CTC, of course, is that we go back to the source. And of course, as therapists, we have a long and evaluated process of releasing those things from the core emotions. But in the essence of it, that's, I believe, how it is different to traditional talk therapy and how it actually helps an individual. So talking about help, how does it differ from, say, if you go and have a session with a talk therapist versus when you have a CTC session and you release it from the layers? What is the difference in the outcome there?
The difference from the outcome distinctly is that you are once and for all free of that emotion and that thought and that feeling and that blockage.
Right.
So if you are partaking in traditional therapy, you would go on a weekly or semi-regular basis and you would relive that story, you would hold on to that story. what we do is we forego the story and we look at the emotion behind it, because it's the emotion behind it that's giving us that reaction, and that's blocking us and making us feel stuck or sick, whatever it may be. And we're able to completely release that emotion. So it sets you free. And it's not an ongoing practice. It's a one-time process, and the benefits are amazing. So you come out of a session feeling so much lighter and knowing that you have let go of that particular emotion causing that feeling or causing that blockage.
So as you said, letting go, and letting go of that emotion, letting go of that experience, letting go of the thoughts and the patterns and the programs that come associated to it. And as you do so, as a client lets go of these things, they obviously step into their power.
So what we take people through, I guess in our process, is at the end of it, we really want them to feel empowered. And I think that's the thing, stepping into your power. You feel empowered in your own life and in your own way to take accountability and responsibility for your life. And to be able to move forward with a single frame of mind, with clarity, with purpose. So for me, that's what stepping into your power is. So coming out of this session, you do feel empowered to make those decisions and to change your behaviors and your actions, to make sure that, every step you take and everything you do benefits you. And it's in line with your direction and in line with your purpose.
And, in doing so, everyone is always taking an action. But when you take an action from a place of lack, when you take an action from a place of past thoughts and emotions and programs, what happens is that you're stuck in there. And when you're stuck in there, all you attract is more of that. And so, as you said, stepping into your power is basically freeing yourself of those limiting beliefs, those emotions, and then taking a fresh approach. One that works for you, one that supports you, one that nurtures you, as opposed to one that is just doing something because it needs to be done.
Or one that's just replaying the same programs and patterns. So what we find quite often with our clients is that they're reliving the same pattern, they're getting the same outcomes, and they can't really understand why, or not aware of how they can break free of that. So what this really enables you to do is to understand, the choices that you were making were part of a program you were playing in response to those emotions. By releasing those emotions, you're now free of that program. And then you can choose a better way. You can have a better outcome. So that is the power of CTC, being able to give you that ability to do that. And you're no longer, a victim of your own subconscious patterns and thoughts. You're now aware and free of those and able to make better choices for yourself.
Let's talk about some case studies. Let's talk about particular clients that you've done, and let's sort of educate our viewers on the kind of results that you can get when you release things from multiple levels. So what is a good experience or a good example where a client of yours has been able to release something from multiple levels and has found healing as an outcome of that?
So look, I can give you numerous examples for anything from ridding people of phobias or addictions to, probably a much more common one at the moment, particularly anxiety, having anxious thoughts and behaviors that were really limiting due to those anxious emotions. So when you can release something like anxiety, when you can release an emotion that powerful, what you can do for someone is create the most powerful, long-lasting change, because they're no longer a prisoner to their emotions. They're now free to make the choices that they would have made if they didn't have these anxious thoughts and feelings. So that's giving someone a whole lot of personal accountability and power back. But those changes are made at every single level. And when you release them and they're gone, the change in a client is just amazing. As you've witnessed, you can have someone who can't leave their house and can't get out of bed and cannot function, to someone who's now making plans for their future and happy and engaging with others and communicating in a way and in a level that they never have in the past. And that is just such a profound thing to be able to give someone.
Yeah. Wow, excellent. Obviously the change is everlasting, and the change speaks for itself, and often you get to see the change just during the session as well. Obviously as therapists, when we're doing something for you, and I say doing something for you because CTC is a process where we give you the power. We're facilitating, we're guiding you, but the major change has to come through you. We hold the energetic container, and that's I think one of the greatest key points about the process, that you hold the power and you always will hold the power. But even as you're holding and shifting those fears and those negative emotions and those beliefs, we literally see the change in your physiology. We see the change in your emotional state, your face. Literally, how many times has it been that you come out of a session and a client's face has changed?
I was about to say that. So, quite often we see at the end of a 2-hour period, someone will come in looking a certain way and they get up and they look completely different. And so for us, that's massive. For the client, it's massive. Well, I'll often take them into the bathroom and have a look in the mirror and say, wow. And they can't believe it themselves. That's the power of this. Being able to shift something at every level of their being creates profound change.
I love that mirror analogy, and I can only imagine, because they're not looking at themselves anymore from those limiting thoughts and beliefs and processes, they can actually see themselves for who they are for the very first time. And that's the thing. CTC is about the very first time, right? It's about the very first time that you're stepping into your power. But throughout the journey of life, you obviously lose those skills. We limit ourselves through our own negative thoughts, through our own limiting beliefs, and of course, illness is something that we're going to talk about. Comes in many different forms. However, the root cause of each one of those things is something energetically in your body. So that I particularly like to talk about chakras, and often when I'm tapping into a client before a session, trying to intuit what is going on in their life, what's really happening, I'll often come across energetic blocks, right? But what I do is I will ask more specific questions. I will try and get more specific information as to how, why, what. Coming back to illnesses, is there an example of illnesses that you can talk about that have been released through CTC?
I can definitely give and share some examples. So I've worked with people who have had, a lot of food intolerances, for example, which is really common these days. So intolerances to coffee, to wheat, to sugar, to certain vegetables or foods that they feel like they have to eliminate. So I've had remarkable stories from that, for someone who would take a sip of coffee and instantly feel sick and instantly feel like the stomach was in knots, to being able to go out to the first time in probably 7 years and have a coffee with her family and be completely fine and feel completely relaxed. So the ability to, release yourself of those types of things, down to people I've worked with who have really serious illnesses, who have cancers, who have those types of things, who've found that they've been able to amplify their healing through this process, through removing all the emotional baggage and blockages that they have, is enabling their own healing in a profound way, like a really, really profound way. And, examples of people who are defying, what the doctors thought that they would ever achieve, by really making sure that they're managing their emotional state really well. So, as CTC therapists, we all also trained in Reiki, so by really having the CTC, making sure that you're stabilizing your emotions, removing any of those blockages, maybe having follow-up Reiki has been able to accelerate healing for some of the clients in a really dramatic and profound way. So the example is really limitless. And, not defined by the types of illnesses that you would come across, because, anything can be helped. CTC can help anything really. And even physical injuries, accidents, and just, I know I'm divulging, but just to give an example, I've even worked with athletes who have had an injury on field, for example, calf injury. They carry that calf injury. The calf is not really back to where it should be. And then what they do whenever they run onto the field, they carry that fear and that anxiety that the calf isn't at the injury isn't 100%, isn't where it needs to be, and it gets re-injured, and it gets re-injured, and it gets re-injured, and time after time after time, When they go onto the field and their physio says, no, your body's ready, they feel that they haven't ridded their body of that injury.
Yeah.
And so what happens? They re-injure.
Yeah.
So a great use of CTC that I've been able to work with some of my clients on that front is being really able to rid themselves of that emotional context and the energetic side of that injury and that emotion attached to that injury. So that when they run out onto the field, they're not thinking about it, they're not holding that emotional feeling on that frequency.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not really the injury, is it? It's the fear, it's the limiting beliefs, it's the thought, right? It's the emotion which is caused in the body. And even is the beautiful example that you gave of dietary issues. The person not being able to drink coffee or have this or have that, it's not that they the intolerance has come out as a consequence of the thoughts and emotions that are being fed into the body, right? And obviously you can have a probiotic pill, or you can go for a process, or you can do this and you can do that, and which will allow you to probably heal the damage that you've done physically. But that if you're still living with the same thoughts and beliefs,
the problem.
which created the problem in the first place, then all they're doing is compounding it, right?
Yeah.
So you might be able to get rid of your intolerances for a while, but that one cup of coffee again will come back and bite you.
Yeah.
So of course, because the illness is not created first within the body, it is manifested in the body. It is first created in the energy centers. So when we talk about thoughts and emotions, what happens is that when you think a thought and you feel that thought in your body, both your thought and your feeling create an electromagnetic energy. Now, in CTC, we obviously believe, and the outcome that we always reach towards is that there is a reason behind everything, that everything happens for a reason. If you have illness in your body, if your energy centers are blocked, and as an outcome you have an illness of some sort, then the illness is here to teach you a lesson, right? Now, speaking of that, speaking of the energetic realms and thoughts, emotions, would you be able to give us an example as a CTC therapist where by you have been able to create some incredible health shifts inside a client?
So I'll probably share some typical examples that I get. So one that springs to mind is I worked with a girl in her sort of mid to late 20s who came to me with a number of food intolerances. So she couldn't eat bread, she couldn't eat pasta, she couldn't drink coffee. And the list kind of went on and on and on. And it caused her a lot of anxiety. She didn't have the freedom that she wanted, and there were obviously a large number of other things going on. But what it came down to once we started the session was that it actually came down to her body image and how she felt about it herself. So she believed that the number one thing that she believed was that she wasn't good enough and she wasn't attractive. And then developed a pattern or a thought process around those feelings of, I can't eat bread and I can't eat pasta because it's going to make me fat. I'm going to be more unattractive and I can't have these things. And really stored it and really believed it, and stored it, I guess, in her stomach area and within herself. So from those feelings and thoughts, she became blocked, and then her food intolerances increased. So from there on, she found she could no longer tolerate caffeine. She could no longer tolerate a range of foods because her emotional response to food and the way she felt about food and her relationship with food was damaged. There's something we call psychological reversal. So if you think of an event that might have happened in your life, and when you rethink about that, you instantly shudder, or you instantly feel a wave of emotion. So that was happening to her and her relationship with food quite consistently. And that was extremely debilitating for her. So what we were able to do was to really get to the root cause of why she was feeling those things. And it was her relationship with food and with her body. Address that emotion, address that cause, and release that. Then when she had the thought about eating bread or having coffee, that fear and that tension that she held was completely released. So when it was gone, she found that she could go out and she could have a sandwich, she could have toast, she could have a coffee, she could enjoy it. And the limitations that she had placed on herself were suddenly gone just by addressing the root cause. And I think that's what we talked about before. Addressing the root cause is really important. But she had stored this in her body. She had manifested quite a real physical reality, a real physical illness where she'd have quite severe physical symptoms just by having a bite of pasta or having a sip of coffee. So this is the power of this process, and really understanding, getting to the bottom of the root cause, identifying that, releasing that, and the power it can have. And that's just one example that I can think of, and there are a number of reasons that, we may, or individuals may develop intolerances, or, I know food intolerances are quite common at the moment to certain foods. And that's just one example I can give. And that shift had such a profound effect on her and gave her so much freedom and confidence. And not to mention all the other side effects or benefits of, being able to then develop a healthy relationship with herself and her body and her body image. But if we're talking about the physical symptom, completely releasing it, the energetic symptom, completely releasing it. So, those sorts of things can absolutely be shifted. With that example, for example, if I break it down in another way, it might be interesting to look at it from this perspective. So, if I look at it in reverse, for example, so you have first the physical reaction to the coffee. Then the step before that is having a sip of the coffee. The step before that is thinking about having the coffee. Now, that thought of thinking about having a coffee brings up in a person all the fear and emotion of every other time they've had a coffee that's caused a reaction.
That's quite true, and it's obviously just not limited to that coffee, is it? Because that fear or that thought of not being able to drink coffee might just as easily be able to translate into the fear of not being able to have pasta or grain or this and that. And all of these thoughts and emotions, which have now become experiences, and what we do is when we make those decisions, we're looking back at those experiences and thinking, can I have a cup of coffee? Maybe not, because the last time I had a cup of coffee I felt this, or maybe the last time I ate this I had that. But then again, the thing is to continuously peel the onion until you get back to the first time that experience happened, right? And as you get back to the first time that experience happened, you realize that wasn't really the root cause of the problem at all. The root cause of the problem is somewhere way, 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 way back into the past. A program that you downloaded from an experience as a young child, or maybe sometimes through your past life, through genealogically, through, when you're being born or when you're in your mother's womb. And what happens is that you pick up a thought as a consequence of what is happening around you. And that thought, at that very moment, for the very first time, that negative thought suddenly becomes a program. You think it, you feel it. It's the emotion that drives the program. So you have the thought, and then you feel the emotion, and that emotion is what we're releasing, because emotions are such powerful drivers within our body. Exactly.
And it is that emotion that we go back to that point in time and release.
Exactly.
So that that emotion is so powerful, then when you release it, it's completely gone from your body. And then you are free to make those decisions then about and experience something new, in this case having a coffee, without that fear, without that emotion rising up into, oh God, if I have this coffee, what's going to happen to me? My stomach's going to be in knots. I'm going to have to run to the bathroom. I'm going to have all these things. Now you can simply enjoy. So
I'd like to think of it as a tree, where the root of the tree is that experience that you had as a child, and how with normal therapy we tend to approach things, or people tend to approach things, is they'll look at one branch and they'll go, so this is this person's experience of not being able to have a coffee. Let's just go down to the start of that branch and see when was the first time that they had this experience of not being able to drink the coffee, right? But that in itself is just a branch, which is part of a tree, which has its root in a completely different experience. That feeling of not being good enough in your body, or not being good enough, or not, or feeling unloved, whatever it may be, is coming from a root experience. And you may be able to clear the coffee experience, but what about the pasta? What about how the person feels about themselves or in their body and how they interact with the world around them, feeling the way that they do. So by going down and peeling those layers, as you go down into the root of that tree and clear it from that particular point, what happens is that you clear everything.
You do.
So you're not just, so by clearing one thing, you're not just clearing the fear of not being able to drink coffee or not being able to digest a certain kind of food. You're clearing illnesses, you're clearing phobias, fears, limiting thoughts and beliefs of a multiple different varieties that have actually originated from that one singular thought or the program that you downloaded. Which is what I think is absolutely incredible about CTC.
It is. And that's the most powerful thing about it, is that freeing yourself from that impact of that emotion can be release anything. And the body is amazing. It's holistic. So you don't just clear, you know, when you're looking at someone, for example, and the root cause is their body image and how they feel about themselves. You're not just clearing the issue they have with coffee or the issue that they have with bread. You're clearing it all. So holistically, you know, we don't break things down and compartmentalize things. The body heals, it heals. It heals everything. Once you heal something from that root cause or that root emotion, everything is healed. And that is the amazing thing. And that is the power. Right. So, you know, we run on these unconscious programs that we don't think about. We never we never sit down and really analyze our thoughts. Where is this coming from? What's going on? We get into this CTC process, and we're really able to identify those things, hone in on them, and then once they're cleared, they're cleared. And everything associated with that is cleared. Absolutely. And that is the magic, right?
That is the magic, and that's why the transformation is so great and so magnanimous, because you know, that's how people come out of a 2-hour session feeling so transformed, so fulfilled, so in their power, so completely free of all of their limiting beliefs that they look unrecognizable. You know, and you know, and that's just one example. Let's maybe look at another example. Because you have a lot of experience with working with athletes. Maybe you can give us an example from there.
So you know, it's really interesting when I work with athletes, you know, and particularly when we're talking about a physical injury. So, you know, we've talked about a symptom, but maybe, you know, it works just as well on injury. So if I think back to one particular athlete that I work with, who is a rugby league player, who has a calf injury. And what you find quite often with athletes who are injured, and it's their role, it's their job, this is how they make their income and their living. They have an injury. They, you know, they come back onto the field still carrying that injury. They don't feel like they're playing at 100%, and they get re-injured. And we'll see this time and time again. If you just think about your favorite teams or your favorite sport, you'll notice that there are particular people who think, wow, how many injuries can this person sustain? And so typically what's going on from the very first injury, that point of injury, they've carried this emotion that has come with the injury. And it's the emotion that we're releasing in order for them to get that benefit. It's the emotion of, oh my God, I have this injury, how can I perform? Or am I going to get re-injured? Or this is my life, how can I bring in money if I've got an injury? What's going to happen to me? Am I going to get re-signed? All of those types of things that come into it, and they carry that. And then every time they go onto the field, they're playing with a fear of re-injuring or re-injuring themselves, and all of those emotions behind it are coming up. So of course it makes it a very powerful emotion, particularly when you're dealing with someone in a livelihood in a public arena. So, you know, for me, it's really amazing to be able to use CTC to be able to, you know, not necessarily looking at the physical injury, looking at the cause and the emotional cause and the energetic cause underneath. So you have a trauma, and you imagine, when I say energetically, you have a physical trauma, the muscle seizes up, it holds. Our bodies do not end in our physical form. So what we see and feel and touch, we have, we're all energetic matter, and our bodies extend past what we can see. So we hold that injury in that part of that body, in a part of our body. And if we particularly are attaching these heavy emotions to a physical injury, quite often it will remain a blockage for someone. So what we would do is we would go and we would clear it on that energetic level, to eradicate it from the person's body. And then we would deal with it on an emotional level. And by dealing with it at an emotional level, you are really taking that time where they had that first injury, and taking that, oh my God, that fear, and all of those beliefs, and we're removing it and we're releasing it, and then we're allowing the person to heal.
Yeah.
So once the fear is gone, once those emotions are gone, their body knows what to do, and it can heal itself. And they're no longer running onto the field with that fear of, oh my God, I'm going to get injured again, or it doesn't feel right, or what if this happens, or what if that happens? Because our emotions are so powerful that they do dictate our reality, as we said. So if you're attaching a powerful negative emotion, you are attracting that.
Yeah.
And that's why you see so commonly with people who have a physical injury that they're likely to re-injure themselves, because that amount of emotion is attached to that, or what amount of emotion is attached to that. So to be able to release that for someone can absolutely change someone's career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is incredible, and that so clearly demonstrates the power of healing with CTC. Moving on, I have a important question here, and the question is about the process of CTC itself that people wouldn't really know about. So as a CTC therapist, as you're administering CTC on a client, how would you define that CTC as a modality, as a process, has the ability to be able to heal things at multiple levels?
Because we do utilize a number of really effective modalities through the process, that's the reason we can drive such effective change. So really, when we're delivering the session, we're using neuro-linguistic programming, for example, as our conversation piece. So we're actively rewiring the brain. So those thoughts, those emotions, we're actually changing those patterns in someone. So when they come out, they've had this profound experience, and now can go and have a perspective of things, look at things in a completely new perspective. So that's one powerful tool that we use.
Right.
And when we ask people to go back to the root causes and really understand and reflect within themselves, we're using that neuro-linguistic programming, and we're using it with hypnotic language, and we're really talking to the unconscious mind. And so I think that's the key, because I think I read the study the other day, we operate with our conscious mind, I think it's like 6% of the time. So 94% of the time we're running these programs unconsciously. So what we have to do is we have to talk to the unconscious mind, and so that's what we do in the program. So as we're going through the session, we're delivering the session in a way that is really talking to the unconscious mind and soliciting the answers in the unconscious part of our client's brain. Another effective, highly effective tool that we use is emotional freedom technique. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a really simple yet effective technique where we administer tapping on a client. So we would go through the meridian points, and we would talk to any fears and any limiting beliefs, anything that holds an individual back, and we would use tapping as a way to release that quickly and effectively from someone. So what we can do is take someone who's sitting or has a limiting belief, and I think the most common and profound one that we tend to see is, I am not good enough. For example, which typically sits at an intensity of 10 for people. And we can go through this EFT process and get that intensity down to 0.
Sometimes, quite often.
And down to a place where it's no longer controlling or having that emotional response or driving that emotional response from someone. So therefore, by relieving that emotional response, you're actually healing them from an emotional level, from an energetic level, from a spiritual level. So when we combine all of these techniques together, and of course during the process we're administering Reiki, so we're giving them energy healing as we're going. It is a profound and complete process.
It is definitely a profound and complete process, and you summarized that really well, because what CTC is focusing on is the triangle of mind, body, and energy or spirit. And of course, as you said, we have different modalities that we use for each one of these, but it's not about this individual modalities, it's how they come together, right? To be able to peel the layers of the onion. And that's the beauty of it, because a lot will happen through a session. a lot that we don't even expect and don't even sometimes fully comprehend why this happened and why that happened. And energetically, there's so much happening. It's how we use them together, right? And that's what makes the difference. That's what allows us to take
the layers off.
The layers off, which is excellent. And I really do hope that our viewers have understood why CTC as a modality can peel things off and actually get you to the root cause, which when eliminated frees you of a lot of, not just one, but a lot of your limiting thoughts, beliefs and patterns. So finishing off for today, what would be the one key point or topic or anything that you would like to leave the viewers with?
I guess I would like to say that if you are really looking for a single modality that can quickly and effectively assist you with multiple areas of your life, then I do think CTC is for you. So, I've been working with people for, more than half of my life. And, what I've come to realize is that people really want to change that's holistic and effective and quick. And I think we're living in a society now, especially where everything is so fast paced, that the thought of going to spend hours and hours of your life with someone every week to rid yourself of issues or concerns may not be effective. You can have the clarity of mind that you need and those effective changes in one session. And it's life-changing. So that would be the one takeaway that I would leave with someone. So if you're really looking for that opportunity to create that change, to really uncover what it is that's holding you back and let that go, then we can definitely.
Wow, I love that.
What about you?
I think the one thing that I would probably leave the viewers with is that everything happens for a reason and everything happens in layers. You might be able to treat one thing, you might be able to treat another, you might be able to treat a third. But remember that all of those branches are part of that one singular tree, and that one singular tree has its roots. So always look at those roots. And obviously, these things happen at such an early age or happen in such a way that we might not really remember and understand these experiences. But as CTC therapists, we can guide you to those points, to those points that have held you blocked for many, 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 many years, or maybe your entire life.
Your entire life. Like sometimes we treat people who have thought or felt a particular way for their entire life, and they've carried that with them for their entire life. Being able to release that and give someone a new perspective on life for the very first time is such an amazing gift. So
absolutely. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.